What's up, guys? Welcome back to I Am Outraged, episode 23. Oh, boy. I don't even know where to start here. I'm on my air quote apology tour. Matt Kelly tried to convince me to apologize on the last episode of the Sonic Truth Dynasty podcast. Don't mind me. I'm just fixing my microphone during the show because I'm not a professional. This should have been done way in advance, but here we are. I'm just bumble fucking around. Excuse my French. So Matt tried to tether me into an apology, and most of you guys said, Nate, don't apologize. Do not apologize to Matt Kelly. Don't do it. Please, God, for the love of God, please don't apologize to Matt Kelly. I don't remember exactly what it was that tumbled from my lips, but I remember saying to Matt that I retracted my statement, and I believe I did apologize for saying that he had bad pre-draft analysis. But I did not apologize for pulling that quote out of his closet. He said it. He needs to live with it. He knows that. And, hopefully he'll be better going forward. He needs to be better, and he knows that. But I don't want to talk about that. My mentions have been blown up by that. Matt Kelly's currently running plenty of Sonic Truth Dynasty podcast promotions right now, using that as the primary catalyst for the catapult or trebuchet, count it, as people like to call them, historians. He's using that to, to vault some clicks. So good for him. I did not apologize. Here we are. But I came to you guys with something important this week. I put a post up because I am going to pull out of the closet, literally, because that's where I have all of my, I hate to even use the word costume. It sounds so ridiculous. I have all of my props, if you will, stashed away for all the bits that I've done in the past. Early Breakout Finder podcast when I wore wigs. I don't even know why. Why did I do that? And then my other bit, which I've only done once, I did it with Drake Jordan, which is funny because Drake Jordan has been, working with so much anonymity for so long. Nobody knows who he is. I mean, you can see him from the interview that I did with him, but it's funny because I saw him before he set his room up the way he did. His girlfriend actually works for a company that deals with sort of lighting construction and setting ambient locations and working with storefronts and things. And so he was right up his alley when I said, look, man, I need you to turn yourself into a silhouette. I don't want anybody to be able to see who you are. If you want to modulate your voice, go ahead, which he clearly did not modulate his voice. If you've never heard the episode, I believe I linked it in the post. Otherwise, go to youtube.com/Nate Liss and search Glenn Booker, and you guys will see my Glenn Booker episode is stored in there, and it was great. It was great with Drake Jordan. He is literally as funny off the cuff in person as he is with his tweets, and his tweets are incredibly trolly, and we know that. If you follow him, which I'm sure many of you guys do, you know that he's just constantly trolling. I mean, he's not a high-stakes player. You have to know this. You have to know this about Drake Jordan. He is not a high-stakes gambler, but his account is elite. He started out, I don't want to give away his whole backstory, but look, this is part of Patreon. You guys are on the inside of the inside. So Drake Jordan started out with a much smaller account. He kind of did his thing for a while, wasn't gaining supreme traction, I guess, and decided, hey, look, I'm going to try something different, and went with an entirely different angle and started this Drake Jordan bit, and it has captivated everyone, from Evan Silva to JJ Zacharyson to, Brad Evans. All these people, everybody follows him. He's made it, and he's a parody account. It's a satire. It's amazing. And I cannot believe he did it, but I reached out to him because him and I are friends on Twitter, and I said, listen, I go, I need to do a interview with you because nobody knows who you are, and it'll be a great Kickstarter for me to kind of launch Glenn Booker out into the world. And Glenn Booker is this Larry King Live spinoff, conservative, ideal, whatever the fuck I created thing. And I want him to kind of be a fool a little bit. And that has nothing to do with political party, left or right. I just want him to kind of be a little goofy, right? I want it to be a sports interview, but I want this character to come to life. So I posted this week and said, look, everybody, I need your help. I need some good questions because I have recently acquired a confirmation for my next Glenn Booker live interview, and I'm doing it with Ray G, who many of you guys also follow on Twitter. That's Ray Garvin. Great Devi guy, great Dynasty guy, really an up-and-comer. When I first met Ray, he had already had like 4,000 followers. And throughout basically the draft process in the offseason, Ray shot from like 4,000 or 5,000 followers to like 11,000. It was like overnight. I don't know how I know how it happened. He's incredibly personable. He's always smiling. He's always happy. He's all over the place. Ray has jumped on every podcast you can imagine, which is exactly why Ray would be willing to come on Glenn Booker Live, because Glenn Booker Live is going to be an absolute shit show. I have so many bits worked into this thing. I'll tell you one of my bits. Okay, I'm going to give you one of my bits. At some point in the interview, I'm going to ask Ray a question with almost no intentions of listening to his answer, so I'll make sure it's not an important one. And right in the middle of it, I'm going to get a phone call. And I'm going to pick up my phone, and I have ordered the old school, come on, Jesus, Nate, turn your phone off, silence your phone. What a rookie mistake. And I ordered on eBay a vintage, like, brick Zach Morris cell phone. Have you guys seen these things? It's like 14 inches tall and like 3 inches deep. It's a giant brick. And I'm planning on getting a phone call in the middle of the interview and fighting with a telemarketer who I have no idea why he's called me. But him and I are going to get into a yelling match on the phone. And Ray has no idea this is going to happen. It's hysterical. When I did this with Drake Jordan, I did a bunch of stuff. I poured myself a bowl of cereal in the episode. I kept sipping out of this mug and making these weird noises with my mouth. I want it to be a little bit absurd, okay? Because look, everybody can do fantasy analysis. Some people can do it better than others. Some people come up with great narratives that other people can't come up with. But for the most part, there's lots of information out there. So what separates one individual from the next? I like to believe personally that I go out on a branch, out on a limb, if you will. I try to stay incredibly energetic for the most part. I try to be more on that comedy side, be a little looser, a little less rigid, a little less dry, because it's hard to get on a microphone. What I'm doing right now, the first time I did this 22 episodes ago, I did not know what I was doing. I had no idea how to do this. I watched Matt Kelly do this for literally years, and I thought to myself, how the hell does he do that? I can talk. I can walk up to any group of people. Doesn't matter who they are. I'll just blend right in, man. I'll just work my way in. I'll just blend right in. Whatever topic you want to talk about, I got a little something to add to it. And I'll make friends with everybody. But this was really difficult. God, and my phone, my watch. Oh, for the love of God, I didn't silence my watch. What an amateur. God, watch and phone. Oh, good Lord. But it's not easy to just get on a mic and talk. So these things differentiate everybody. And my biggest thing is I want to do something different. And I'm currently in this rental home, and it's a fine place in the interim while I'm waiting for my next move. But when I go from here to the next place, which is about April next year, I'm planning on doing a much more expansive YouTube thing. Something that I haven't even started yet. I haven't even unleashed yet. I haven't even really spoken of yet. But I have ideas to do something that's going to be a reoccurring YouTube show, live stream, that's going to be epic. I look forward to it. It's one of my best ideas yet. And I just really can't find the the means to pull it off right now in this situation. I just don't really want to go to the levels of effort it's going to require me to set up and break down in this place. But I can assure you, come April, May, when I move to the next location, I am going to have one of the most fantastic things lined up. And I just wish we could fast forward to it because it's going to be so ridiculous, so upbeat. And it's going to be one of those things where you're just going to be reeling, waiting for the next episode. I truly believe it. I think it's that good. So that'll be coming in the near future. You know what else will be coming in the near future? The Leonard Fournette Smash 2020 season is going to be coming in the near future. And Matt Kelly and I, on the last Sonic Truth Dynasty podcast, broke down Evan Silva's take on his Establish the Run podcast with Adam Levitan, where he went on record to say that he believes that Leonard Fournette is going to lose work to Raquel Armstead this year, and there's a chance that he gets cut from the Jacksonville Jaguars. Oh, baby. I just spilled water everywhere. God damn. I'm so bad at this. I'm still learning. I'm still apprenticing. So I disagree. I disagreed on the Sonic Truth Dynasty podcast. I still disagree today. This is what I do. I fester on things. I let them, they get free rent in my head, and I think about them, and I speculate on them, and I postulate on them. That's the right word, right? And it goes to my head, and I break them down till they're just like little crumbs. And I'm like, you know what? I got to attack this again. I have to go about this again because more things come to me, more things to support at least what I believe is my side of the argument. I don't see it the way Evan sees it. And again, no disrespect to Evan Silva. He's a legend. He's the king. But the idea that the Jacksonville Jaguars, who have next to no depth on the roster, are going to cut Leonard Fournette seems wild considering that at least the offseason that we've had thus far. And take this for what it is, but we've actually had some coach speak and recent takes from Jay Gruden, which are worth reading. So I'm going to read these to you right now. This is from Jay Gruden's lips about Leonard Fournette. He's a great player, and everything you've seen on tape with Jacksonville, his production last year was excellent, and so far, so good. He's been working hard, he's learning our new systems, and I'm excited to work with him. But as far as interactions with coaches, it's been positive with me so far. He's willing to learn, and we're teaching him some new things, some new concepts, new techniques, so to speak, and he's bought in and he's learning. This is coming from Jay Gruden's lips. Now, this could be Jay Gruden saying all this while clenching his teeth. But the fact of the matter is, whomever the eventual Jacksonville lead back is, if it's not Leonard Fournette, he's not on this roster, and you can't convince me that he is. So if the next Jacksonville back that is not Leonard Fournette is on this roster currently, I'm not buying it, which means the competition for Leonard Fournette is nil. But for the 2020 season, everything appears cordial between Jacksonville, between Doug Marrone, between Jay Gruden, between Leonard Fournette. And when you're a month away from actual regular season football games, you aren't sugarcoating who the starter is. It's Leonard Fournette, and it was never anybody else. There was never a question about this. There was no question. Even when other things took place in the background, it was always Leonard Fournette. It's been that way from the beginning. And his 2020 very much looks like wheels up. But I'm totally blown away by the cavalcade of analysts who are still low on him. Even when his ADP is finally right. Even when Leonard Fournette went from being a first-round pick during his rookie year or so to being a second-round pick to now being a third, fourth-round pick, people are still low on Leonard Fournette. And they keep citing Chris Thompson and Jay Gruden's past fuckfests as the reason why Fournette provocateurs should jump ship. I don't get it because Chris Thompson has taken passing down work from other running backs in the past. Okay. Hold up. We need to put context to that statement for a minute. Let's make sure that The audience knows just which running backs he stole passing down work from in the past. Alfred Morris at the end of his career. Rob Kelly, who was known as Fat Rob and played like a year and a half. Samaje Perine, who's only known for bench pressing and wasn't a good running back. And then Adrian Peterson at age 33 and 34. What? What are you talking about? These are the players that you're citing as the example of what Chris Thompson is about to do to Leonard Fournette, a player that was brought in to Jacksonville as a wide receiver recruit? This is asinine. And then when you counter these people that bring this statement up with the theory of the 3-down back versus the satellite back, they just start to stammer. They just, but they have nothing to say. They don't know what to say. Because explain this to me, please. What would be the point of putting Chris Thompson, by all accounts, who is absolute toast on the field instead of Leonard Fournette in a 3-down role? Because my argument has long been the poker game, right? The poker game that takes place on the field. Tell me this. If you're a defensive coordinator, every time you see Chris Thompson stepping onto the field on 3rd and 3, what do you think is happening based on his history? Chris Thompson's not running the ball. Chris Thompson's either being targeted in the pass game or picking up a blitz, and that's it. When you have Leonard Fournette on the field, you can mask the pass play without defenses being tipped off. You add much more variance to your play calling. You expand your options. When you leave a running back on the field, defenses don't know if it's run or pass. And Leonard Fournette has had it worse than anybody over the past couple years. I mean, people are knocking Leonard Fournette's production in 2019, while also forgetting about the fact that Leonard Fournette had one of the worst offensive lines in the league. In addition to that, Leonard Fournette ranked as the RB4 in extra defenders on average in the box. So he's got a crap O-line, a rookie quarterback, no tight ends, one wide receiver. Again, the worst offensive line that we've seen, and all defenses are doing is loading the box on him. And yet, here Leonard Fournette goes, ranking number 8 in yards created, number 8 in breakaway runs, number 5 in receptions because he was targeted 100 times and only played 15 games, number 9 in fantasy points per game, even though Leonard Fournette didn't score that many touchdowns last year, which is the least bankable stat in fantasy football. Year to year. You cannot tell me how many touchdowns one guy's going to have year to year because, again, I'll always bring up Alvin Kamara. Explain to me what happened between 18 and 19 because that's what happens. So what's the point of putting Chris Thompson on the field in terms of offensive scheme when you can just leave Fournette out there? Do you really think that Chris Thompson has anything left in the tank? Again, think about this. Leonard Fournette may not be the most dynamic playmaker with the ball in his hands at time, even though he's the number 8 in yards created. He's number 29 in yards created per touch at 1.4. Chris Thompson, on the other hand, number 71 in yards created per touch. Think about that. He's almost, 3 times worse than Leonard Fournette with the ball in his hands? And Chris Thompson's almost 30 years old, and he's undersized. So what's going on here? Just because him and Jay Gruden had made love in the past, now we think that this is going to carry over? Just because Chris Thompson stole passing down work from a cooked Adrian Peterson and 3 running backs nobody's ever heard of, he's going to steal it from Leonard Fournette? I mean, come on, guys. Come on. It's so ridiculous. It just doesn't make any sense whatsoever to me. But this is what is being dreamt up on the internet right now, on Twitter, on Facebook, on YouTube, in the DMs. This is what people are saying. They're saying, hey, Leonard Fournette is done, man. Oh, yeah, Leonard Fournette's toast, man. Chris Thompson's going to come in there and he's going to catch like 80 balls, man. Chris Thompson's never caught 80 balls. Chris Thompson's never even come close to the target share of Leonard Fournette. So what are we talking about? Every team Thompson's ever played for knows he's undersized, injury prone, and he can't be leaned on as a feature option. So I'm not worried about Chris Thompson, and neither should you. Because even if Chris Thompson steals 30% of Leonard Fournette's work, we're not worried about it. Leonard Fournette had an insane target share last year. And by all accounts, it shouldn't dip that much per game this year. But yes, they added Laviska Shenault. They just lost Josh Oliver. And I know Tyler Eifert's there. Who knows what he's going to be. He's probably going to get hurt too. I mean, this is the reality of the situation. But it gets worse, okay? Because here's the thing. I will say this. I've had this thought, okay? I went outside the box. I thought to myself, Nate, dig deeper. If you were on the other side and you were playing devil's advocate, how would you argue against Leonard Fournette? And I came up with a theory that nobody else is bringing up that could be anti-Leonard Fournette. And nobody else is bringing this theory up. They keep bringing up Chris Thompson. They keep bringing up the fifth-year option. They keep bringing up the running backs that are behind him that nobody knows who the fuck they are. All these things keep coming up, but they don't bring this up. And I'll tell you what it is. There is one blind spot in Leonard Fournette's 2020 fantasy season, and the potential for it is likely. Okay? So let me lay a shower cry worthy scenario on all of you right now. What if the Jacksonville Jaguars stink again? Let that sink in. It's a hard one. What if they stink again? What if? What if by week 12 or 13, they're 4-8 or 4-9 with no shot at the postseason yet again? Something that fans in Jacksonville have grown accustomed to. Because right now in Vegas, they have Jacksonville as a 5-win team. 5 wins on the season. So realistically, the Jaguars could be sitting at 3-9 at some point this year, effortlessly. Without even trying, they're just going to roll it out and show up at 3-9. It's entirely possible. And we know the Jaguars did decline Fournette's fifth-year option. And we've seen enough to know that he isn't coming back to Jacksonville short of a miracle. I'd love to see him back in Jacksonville. I love his opportunity in Jacksonville. I want to believe that somehow this gets remedied and he re-signs in Jacksonville, but it doesn't seem like it. They talked about trading him during the draft. They declined the option. There's been issues with the organization. So the likelihood is grim. So what if head coach Doug Marrone by week 12 wants to start seeing, what he has behind Leonard Fournette? What he has in terms of depth entering 2021 as he prepares for this rookie class that has star-studded running backs in it, as he prepares for this 2021 free agency class that is as loaded with running back talent as we have ever seen. What if he wants to see what he has behind Leonard Fournette? And what if the Jaguars do believe that Zigbo or Armstead could be the RB2 or the RB3 in the future? They're clearly not going to be the RB1. That was validated last year. We watched Leonard Fournette run this backfield all year long, almost literally. Again, Leonard Fournette in 15 games, 265 carries. Raquel Armstead, who was active for 16 games, had 35 carries. 35 carries. Okay, this team, as I've said before, was 5-10 at one point. Leonard Fournette had 18 touches. Raquel Armstead had 1 touch. If this team really hated Leonard Fournette that much, don't you think that Armstead would have had more than 1 touch if they were planning on trading him? This team wasn't even playoff bound anymore. They had no reason to play Leonard Fournette. But yet he was out-touching this guy that's apparently going to usurp him 18-1 when this team was 5-10 with no shot to make the playoffs. That makes 0 sense to me. 0 sense. So, but what if? But what if Marrone wants to see what one of these two guys looks like as the backup running back next year? This could suddenly mean that Jacksonville, who again has no allegiance to Leonard Fournette, could put the brakes on his workload. This is what I fear. This is what I'm saying no one else is talking about. And what if Fournette goes from the 22.7 touches per game that he saw in 2019 suddenly down to 11.5 or less than that as Doug Marrone and Jay Gruden start to let Ozigbo have some carries? let Armstead have some carries. And they do what we saw them do in week 17 last year when Leonard Fournette was out, when these two guys split carries. Armstead didn't even run away with the job. They split him 15 and 12. So it's not like either guy was deemed the guy even when Fournette was out in yet another game that didn't matter. But what if they decide to cut Leonard Fournette's workload in half or worse, more than that? And it happens in week 12, week 13, right when it counts. When the fantasy football playoffs are in sight and we're in the final stretch. Or worse, during the actual playoffs. This is the reality of the relationship between the two sides, between Jacksonville and Leonard Fournette. Fortunately for Leonard Fournette, he has almost no depth to challenge him on the roster. Despite Jacksonville's distaste for him, they did literally nothing to draft a player that proves otherwise on this theory. I mean, just think about this. Think about this for a minute. Jacksonville, at the NFL draft, had 12 picks. They had 12 picks in the 2020 NFL draft. We knew they didn't like Leonard Fournette. They were going to decline his option. They were planning on trading Leonard Fournette during this very draft. There was heat between him and the organization. They had 12 picks. They took 0 running backs. On a roster that had Ozigbo and Armstead, two players that, again, never played whatsoever last year. And yet they did absolutely nothing to add depth behind Leonard Fournette or challenge Leonard Fournette. So if they really believed in Armstead or Ozigbo, wouldn't these guys have gotten more opportunity at some point last year when this team was completely out of playoff contention? Of course they would have, but they didn't. So no, neither of these guys are the guy. They're not the guy. And it's a mixed message from Jacksonville. You're telling me no team in the NFL would have given you a 5th round pick for Leonard Fournette? No team in the NFL would do that? No team in the NFL would have given you a 4th or 6th round pick? You're telling me you had no choice but to hold on to Leonard Fournette? If you did, it's because you knew he made you more competitive. He's better than every other running back on this roster, and it's not close. It's not close at all. But what I fear is that this actually happens. That if this is the year that Jacksonville decides they are definitively moving on from Leonard Fournette and they are way out of playoff contention, which again they should be, as Vegas has them as a 5-win team, and I don't see that changing, I could see Leonard Fournette losing work when it counts. And that's a scary thought for teams in fantasy that are drafting him in the 3rd and the 4th round. Because the only argument against Leonard Fournette's 2020 workload was the fact that they declined his 5th-year option. And the only other thing that people can go to is the fact that Chris Thompson, who outplayed statuesque running backs while playing for Jay Gruden, somehow has a relationship that necessarily means that Leonard Fournette is going to suffer mightily. Yet the positive offseason coach speak, the 0 draft picks when they had 12 to use, the 0 veteran additions to Leonard Fournette, the 0 2019 workload shedding between him and Ozigbo and Armstead, and the shortened offseason necessarily tells me that Leonard Fournette is getting every opportunity to retain his 2019 rushing workload. And even if Chris Thompson gets a 30% cut of Leonard Fournette's passing down work from last year, Leonard Fournette still would have finished as a top 6 targeted running back in the league. I am still buying Leonard Fournette.